The November wind cut through downtown Toronto like a blade, sharp enough to make my eyes water as I stood outside Union Station. Or maybe that wasn't the wind at all. Maybe it was the weight of 3 years pressing down on my chest. 3 years of searching, 3 years of being told I was chasing ghosts. I pulled my coat tighter and checked my watch. 2:47 p.m. He'd said 3 o'clock. My name is Thomas Whitmore, and I'm 63 years old. I used to be a high school history teacher in Mississauga. Used to be a lot of things, actually. A father. A husband before cancer took my wife, Catherine, back in 2018. A man who believed the system worked. That truth mattered. That justice wasn't just a word we taught kids in civics class. That was before my son disappeared. The station doors opened and closed, spilling out travelers into the gray afternoon. I watched each face, looking for the one I'd only seen in a photograph. Dr. James Morrison. The email had come 2 days ago, short and direct. Mr. Whitmore, I have information about your son. Meet me at Union Station, November 15th, 3 p.m. I'll find you. I'd almost deleted it. 3 years of false leads, well-meaning psychics, and internet trolls had taught me to expect nothing. But something in those words, the certainty, the lack of apology or explanation, had made me book a flight from Vancouver. Because 3 years ago, my son Ethan vanished in Germany. Not vanished, actually. That's not what the Hamburg police said. According to them, Ethan Whitmore, 26 years old, PhD candidate in marine biology at the University of Hamburg, had walked into the Elbe River on a cold February night in 2022 and never walked out. Depression, they said. The pressure of his research. They'd found his coat on the Landungsbrücken pier, his wallet inside, a note that read simply, "I can't do this anymore." But I knew my son. Ethan had called me the week before, excited, talking a mile a minute about a breakthrough in his research on microplastics. "Dad, this could change everything. Doctor, Fischer thinks we might actually have something here." That wasn't the voice of someone about to end it all. I'd flown to Hamburg within 24 hours, spent 6 weeks there, arguing with police, hiring a private investigator, refusing to believe. The investigator found nothing. The police were polite but firm. The evidence was clear. My son had taken his own life. I'd returned to Canada broken, sold the house in Mississauga that held too many memories, moved to Vancouver to be closer to Catherine's sister, retired early, spent my days walking the seawall, staring at the water, wondering if I'd failed my son somehow, if I'd missed the signs, but I never stopped looking. Late at night, I'd comb through Ethan's emails, his research notes, his social media, looking for something, anything, that didn't fit the narrative. "Mr. Whitmore?" I turned. The man approaching was in his early 50s, tall and angular, with wire-rimmed glasses, and the distracted air of someone who spent more time with microscopes than people. He wore a heavy wool coat and carried a leather messenger bag. "Dr. Morrison?" He nodded, glancing around the busy station. "Is there somewhere we can talk? Somewhere private?" 20 minutes later, we were in a corner booth at a Tim Hortons on Front Street. Morrison had barely touched his coffee. He kept looking at the door. "You're nervous," I said. "I'm careful," he corrected. "Mr. Whitmore, before I show you what I have, I need to know something. If I told you your son was alive, that he didn't drown himself, that he was taken, would you be prepared for what comes next?" My heart stopped. Actually stopped. I felt it catch in my chest, then start again with a painful thud. "Taken," I repeated. The word felt foreign in my mouth. "Taken by who?" Morrison opened his messenger bag and pulled out a manila folder. "I teach molecular biology at McGill. 3 years ago, I was on sabbatical in Hamburg, doing collaborative research with the university there. I met your son twice. Brilliant young man. We talked about his work on microplastic degradation. He was excited about something, said he'd found an anomaly in some data. He slid a photograph across the table. Ethan, smiling, standing in a laboratory with a woman I didn't recognize. Young, maybe 30. Dark hair pulled back. "That's Dr. Petra Fischer," Morrison said. She was Ethan's supervisor, also the daughter of Klaus Fischer. The name meant nothing to me. Morrison saw my confusion. Klaus Fischer owns Fischer Biotech, one of the largest pharmaceutical and chemical companies in Northern Europe. Billions in annual revenue. They manufacture everything from medications to industrial plastics. Very powerful family, very connected. He pulled out another photograph. A man in his 60s, silver-haired, standing at a podium. Behind him, a logo, Fischer Biotech. What does this have to do with Ethan? Morrison's jaw tightened. Your son discovered something, Mr. Whitmore. In his research on microplastics in the North Sea, he found concentrations that didn't match any known source. He traced them. The signature matched industrial runoff from a Fischer Biotech plant near Cuxhaven. But here's the thing, the company had reported that plant as compliant with all environmental regulations. They'd passed every inspection. He pulled out more papers, charts, data tables, email printouts. Ethan found proof they were falsifying their reports, dumping untreated chemical waste into the North Sea, bribing inspectors, manipulating their own environmental impact studies. We're talking about violations that would cost the company hundreds of millions in fines, possibly criminal charges. He confronted Dr. Fischer about it. My hands were shaking. I set down my coffee before I spilled it. 2 days later, Morrison continued, his voice quiet. Ethan disappeared. The police found his coat, his note. Case closed. Tragic suicide. I didn't think anything of it at first. But then I noticed something. Dr. Fischer's research papers, the ones published 6 months after Ethan's death, they contained methodologies, data analysis techniques that were identical to Ethan's work. Not similar. Identical. She stole his research. More than that, she built her entire career on it. She's now head of environmental research at Fischer Biotech. The company uses her work to claim they're leaders in sustainability. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so evil. I couldn't breathe. 3 years. 3 years of grief, of guilt, of wondering what I'd missed. You said taken. You said my son was alive. Morrison hesitated. This was the moment. I could see him weighing his words. 6 months ago, I received an anonymous email. No return address. Sent through multiple proxies. It contained a single photograph. He pulled out one more image and placed it face down on the table between us. Mr. Whitmore, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to show you, what I'm about to tell you, this isn't something we can take to the police. The Fischer family has connections throughout German law enforcement, the government, the media. If we move wrong, if they know we're coming, we'll never see your son again. Show me. He flipped the photograph over. It took me a moment to process what I was seeing. A room, sparse and white, like a hospital or clinic. And sitting on a bed, thinner than I remembered, beard longer, but unmistakably, undeniably, my son Ethan. The photograph had metadata, a date stamp, October 3rd, 2025. 6 weeks ago. I don't remember making a sound, but I must have, because Morrison reached across the table and gripped my arm. He's alive, I whispered. My son is alive. The email came with coordinates, a property in the Harz Mountains, about 4 hours south of Hamburg. It's registered to a Fischer family trust. Remote, heavily secured. I've been watching it for 3 months, Mr. Whitmore. There are guards, cameras. Whoever sent me that photo knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted someone to know. Why didn't you go to the police, the media? Because I need proof, and because I'm not enough. I'm a scientist, not a detective. But you're his father. You have standing. If we can get evidence, real evidence, we can go to the international press, the Canadian embassy. But we have to be smart. I stared at the photograph. My son, alive. For 3 years, I'd been mourning a ghost. For 3 years, the Fischers had been holding him prisoner. When do we leave? Morrison's eyes widened. Mr. Whitmore, I'm not suggesting we. When do we leave? He studied my face, and whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. I have a colleague in Hamburg, someone I trust. She's already agreed to help. We'd need to fly there, observe the property, find a way in. I want to be clear, this isn't a rescue mission. We get evidence, we get photos, documentation, then we go to the authorities. Fine, I said. But I was lying, and I think he knew it. I wasn't leaving Germany without my son. We flew out the next morning. Morrison had booked us on a Lufthansa flight through Frankfurt, then a train to Hamburg. 16 hours of travel time, and every minute felt like an eternity. I couldn't sleep, Couldn't eat. I kept pulling out my phone and staring at the photograph Morrison had shared with me. Ethan, alive. My boy was alive. Hamburg in November was cold and gray, rain falling in sheets that turned the streets into mirrors. Morrison's colleague met us at a cafe near the university. Her name was Dr. Ingrid Keller, a chemical engineer in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "You're sure about this?" she asked me, in perfect English, her German accent slight. "The Fischers are not people to cross lightly." "My son has been a prisoner for 3 years," I said. "I'm sure." She nodded and pulled out a laptop. On the screen was a satellite image of a compound in the mountains. Large main house, several outbuildings, surrounded by forest. "This is the property," she said. The coordinates Morrison received. "It's registered as a private research facility, but there's no record of any active research being conducted there. The staff is minimal, a rotating crew of security, a few maintenance workers. Very isolated." "How do we get in?" Morrison and Keller exchanged glances. "There's a service road," Keller said slowly, "used by delivery trucks. Once a week, supplies are brought in. Food, medical equipment. If we could intercept one of those deliveries—" "Too risky," Morrison interrupted. "The guards know the drivers. We'd be spotted immediately." "Then we go in at night," I said. "Over the fence, through the woods." "The property has motion sensors," Keller said. "Cameras throughout. And even if we could get past security, we don't know where in the compound Ethan is being held." We spent the next 2 days planning. Morrison had equipment, portable cameras, recording devices, a thermal scanner he'd borrowed from the university. Keller had contacts who could get us security codes, shift schedules for the guards. I felt useless, a 63-year-old man trying to keep up with people who knew what they were doing. But I was Ethan's father. That had to count for something. On the third night, we drove south from Hamburg in a rented van. 4 hours through increasingly rural countryside, the roads narrowing as we climbed into the Harz Mountains. By the time we reached the turnoff to the Fischer property, it was past midnight. We parked a kilometer away and hiked in through the forest. Morrison carried the equipment. Keller had a tablet showing the security layout. I carried nothing but determination and a growing sense of unreality. This was insane. We were about to break into a private compound owned by one of the most powerful families in Germany. But my son was in there. The fence was 3 meters tall, topped with cameras. Keller pulled out a small device and attached it to the fence line. "Signal jammer," she whispered. "It'll give us a 30-second window. Once I activate it, we climb. Fast." The jammer beeped softly. Morrison went first, surprisingly agile for an academic. Then me, my old muscles screaming in protest, but somehow getting me over. Keller came last, and then we were inside. The main house loomed ahead, dark except for a few lit windows. We kept to the tree line, moving slowly. Morrison had the thermal scanner out, sweeping the grounds. "2 guards," he whispered. "One at the main entrance, one doing a perimeter walk. If we time this right there—" He pointed to a side entrance, a service door half hidden by overgrown shrubs. Keller moved forward, pulling out a set of lockpicks. 30 seconds later, the door clicked open. We were inside. The hallway was institutional white, fluorescent lights humming overhead. It smelled like antiseptic and something else, something chemical I couldn't place. We moved quickly, checking doors. Storage rooms, an office, a kitchen. Then we found the stairs going down. "Basements," Morrison breathed. "If they're holding him anywhere, it would be below ground." The stairs descended into darkness. Keller found a light switch, and suddenly we were in another hallway, this one lined with doors, heavy doors with locks and small windows. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. We checked the first room. Empty. The second, the same. The third. I saw him before the others did. Through the small window in the door, sitting on a bed, reading by lamplight. Thinner, older, but my son. My Ethan. I didn't think. I just moved. Tried the door locked. Keller was already there with her picks, but I couldn't wait. I pounded on the door. "Ethan! Ethan! It's Dad!" The figure inside looked up, and I saw his face change. Confusion, disbelief, then recognition. "Dad?" His voice was muffled by the door, but I heard it. 3 years since I'd heard that voice. Keller got the lock open and I burst inside. Ethan stood up, stumbled, and I caught him, held him. My son, my boy. You're alive, I kept saying. You're alive. You're alive. Dad, what are you? How did you? He was crying. We both were. Morrison appeared in the doorway. We need to move. Now. If the guards... You won't be going anywhere. The voice came from behind us. We turned. Klaus Fischer stood in the hallway, flanked by 2 security guards. But it wasn't Klaus who made my blood run cold. It was the woman standing beside him, Dr. Petra Fischer, Ethan's former supervisor. "Hello, Ethan," she said softly. "I see you have visitors." Klaus Fischer looked exactly like his photographs, silver-haired, distinguished, the kind of man used to getting his way. He regarded us with something like disappointment. "Breaking and entering," he said. "Trespassing on private property. The police will be very interested." "The police will be more interested in why you're holding a Canadian citizen prisoner," Morrison said, his voice shaking but determined. "We have evidence. Photos. Testimony." "You can't." "Can't what?" Petra Fischer interrupted. "Can't protect our family's interests. Can't prevent a disturbed young man from making wild accusations." "Ethan came here voluntarily, Doctor. Morrison. He's been receiving treatment for his mental health issues." "That's a lie." Ethan's voice was stronger than I expected. "I found proof. Proof you were dumping toxic waste, falsifying reports. I was going to expose you, and you had me kidnapped." Petra's smile didn't waver. "You had a breakdown, Ethan. The stress of your research, your father's death." "My father isn't dead," Ethan shouted. "He's standing right here." "Oh, I misspoke," Petra said smoothly. "I meant your mother, Catherine Whitmore, wasn't it? Cancer. How tragic. The grief must have been unbearable. She was good. I had to give her that." Every word calculated to make Ethan sound unstable. Klaus Fischer stepped forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave, all 3 of you. You're going to return to Canada, Dr. Morrison to Montreal, Dr. Keller to wherever she came from, and you're going to forget you were ever here." "And if we don't?" I asked. "Then I make a phone call, and the 3 of you are arrested for breaking into a medical facility and attempting to abduct a patient." "German prisons are not pleasant, Mr. Whitmore." "We have evidence," Keller said. "The photograph. The coordinates. Your own security footage will show." "Show 3 intruders breaking into my property?" Klaus smiled. "Yes, it will. As for this photograph you claim to have, it could be from anywhere. Ethan is here of his own free will. He signed papers. We have his signature on everything." "Under duress," Morrison said. "Prove it." We were trapped. I could see it in Morrison's eyes, in the way Keller's shoulders slumped. They'd thought this through, had contingencies for everything. We had nothing. Nothing but the truth. And that wasn't enough. "Let him go," I said. "Whatever he knows, whatever he saw, let him go, and we'll stay quiet." Ethan grabbed my arm. "Dad, no. You're in no position to negotiate," Klaus said. But I saw something flicker in his eyes. "Calculation. I'm a 63-year-old retired teacher from Canada," I said. "Morrison is an academic. Keller is a researcher. None of us have the resources to fight you. But if you keep my son here, if anything happens to him, I will spend every remaining day of my life making sure the world knows. I'll go to every media outlet, every environmental organization, every government agency. I'll be the crazy old man who won't shut up. And maybe they'll believe me, maybe they won't. But the questions will start. People will look closer. Investigations will be opened." Klaus Fischer studied me for a long moment. "Or," I continued, "you let Ethan go. We return to Canada. And whatever he found, whatever research he did, it stays buried. We have no interest in your company, Herr Fischer. We just want to go home." It was a bluff. The moment Ethan was free, I'd make sure his story reached everyone who'd listen. But Fischer didn't need to know that. Petra started to protest, but her father held up a hand. "You're lying," he said simply. "The moment your son is free, you'll go to the authorities." "Maybe," I admitted. "But you'll have time to prepare, cover your tracks. With Ethan here, you're holding evidence. Without him, it's just accusations from a man with a history of mental health issues who disappeared 3 years ago. Who's more credible?" I hated myself for saying it, hated reducing my son to a liability calculation. But I needed Fischer to see the logic. Klaus Fischer looked at his daughter. Some silent communication passed between them. Then he nodded to the guards. Take them to my office. All of them. We were escorted upstairs to a wood-paneled office that screamed old money. Klaus sat behind his desk, Petra standing beside him. The guards remained at the door. "You're right," Klaus said finally. "Having your son here is complicated, but I'm not a fool, Mr. Whitmore. If I let him go, I need insurance." "What kind of insurance?" He pulled out a document. Multiple pages, dense legal text. A non-disclosure agreement, binding in perpetuity. Ethan signs, agreeing never to speak publicly about his research, his time here, or any allegations regarding Fischer Biotech. Violation results in immediate legal action and a penalty of 50 million euros. "That's insane," Morrison said. "He can't." "He can and he will," Klaus interrupted. "Or he stays here. Your choice." I looked at Ethan, saw the conflict in his eyes. He'd spent 3 years in captivity, 3 years knowing the truth. Signing this meant letting them win. "Dad," he said quietly, "those chemicals they're dumping, they're causing mutations in marine life. Birth defects. It's spreading through the food chain. People are eating contaminated fish. If I sign this, if I stay silent, you'll be alive," I said. "You'll be free. We'll find another way." "There is no other way. I'm the only one who has the proof." Petra Fischer smiled. "Had the proof. Your research notes, your samples, we destroyed everything months ago. All that's left are some vague allegations from a mentally unstable former graduate student." I saw Ethan's face crumple. 3 years of imprisonment, and in the end, it was for nothing. "Sign it," I said. "Ethan, please, sign it and come home." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he reached for the pen. But before he could sign, Keller spoke up. "Wait," she said. She was holding her phone. "Before you sign anything, Herr Fischer, you should know something. For the past 10 minutes, this conversation has been broadcast live to a very specific audience." Klaus Fischer went pale. "What?" "My phone," Keller said calmly. "Video and audio, streaming directly to the email addresses of the German Federal Environmental Agency, the European Commission's Environment Directorate, 3 investigative journalists, I trust, and the Canadian Embassy in Berlin. Every word you've said, every admission." Petra lunged for the phone, but Keller stepped back. "It's already out there," she said, "saved to secure cloud storage. Even if you destroy this phone, the evidence exists." The room erupted. Klaus was shouting. Petra was pale and shaking. The guards moved forward, but Morrison stepped between them and Keller. "You have 2 choices now," Keller said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Let us leave all of us, including Ethan, and we take our chances with the authorities. Or try to stop us, and I send one more email. This one to every major news organization in Europe. CNN, BBC, Der Spiegel. The headline, 'Pharmaceutical Giant Holds Researcher, Prisoner to Hide Environmental Crimes.' That stream I just sent? It becomes public. How do you think that plays?" Klaus Fischer looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. He turned to his daughter. "You said we could contain this. You said, Father, we can still—" "Enough." His voice cracked like a whip. "We're done. Let them go. But now, Petra, before this gets any worse." 30 minutes later, we were in the van, driving away from the compound. Ethan sat between Morrison and me in the back, still shaking. None of us spoke until we were back on the main highway. "Did you really send that recording?" Ethan finally asked Keller. She glanced back from the driver's seat. "Every word. By now, at least a dozen people have copies. The investigators will move slowly. The Fischers have lawyers, connections. But they'll move. Your research might be gone, but your testimony isn't. And now we have Klaus Fischer, on record, admitting to holding you against your will. It won't be enough," Ethan said quietly. "Men like that don't go to jail." "Maybe not," Morrison said. "But the company will face investigations. Fines. Petra's career is over once that recording becomes public. No academic institution will touch her. And you're free. That counts for something." We flew back to Canada 2 days later. Ethan needed time to process, to give statements to the Canadian Embassy, to begin understanding that his captivity was really over. I called Catherine's sister from the hotel, told her to expect us, told her I was bringing my son home. The German authorities moved faster than I expected. Within a week, Fischer Biotech was under investigation by multiple agencies. The company's stock plummeted. Klaus Fischer stepped down as CEO. Petra Fischer was fired and faced criminal charges for false imprisonment and evidence tampering. But Ethan was right. Men like Klaus Fischer rarely see the inside of a prison cell. He paid enormous fines. The company was restructured, and he retired to a villa in Switzerland. Petra received a suspended sentence and community service. It wasn't justice, not really. But 3 months later, sitting in my apartment in Vancouver, watching Ethan laugh at something on TV, I realized something. The Fischers had taken 3 years of his life. They'd tried to take his voice, his research, his future. They'd failed. Ethan is 29 now. He's working at a research institute here in Vancouver, studying ocean ecosystems. He can't talk about Fischer Biotech. The legal settlement we eventually reached required some confidentiality, but he found a way to continue his work. The truth about the dumping came out through other researchers, other investigations. The North Sea contamination is being cleaned up. Sometimes justice is slow. Sometimes it's imperfect, but it comes. I learned something in those 3 years of searching, and in the weeks we spent bringing Ethan home, I learned that you never stop fighting for the people you love, that persistence matters, that sometimes the right thing to do is also the dangerous thing, the difficult thing, the thing that makes no sense to anyone but you. I learned that rich and powerful people can bend the rules, can manipulate systems, can make evidence disappear, but they can't make the truth disappear, not forever. And I learned that when everyone tells you to give up, to accept the official story, to move on, that's exactly when you have to hold on tighter. My son was declared dead. The case was closed. I was told to grieve and let go. But I didn't. And because of that, Ethan is sitting in my living room right now, arguing with me about whether the Canucks have any chance at the playoffs this year. That's not nothing. That's everything. If you're reading this and you've lost someone, if the authorities have given up, if everyone tells you to accept what happened, don't. Trust your instincts. Trust your love. Keep searching. Keep fighting. Because somewhere out there, someone might be waiting for you to bring them home. And there's no statute of limitations on hope.